Everybody. I know it's kind of late, but I figured I would get this in now. We may have some more news tomorrow, but basically this is some of the small stuff you need to know that will probably propel what we see going on in the future for the Pac-12, and I even talk a little bit of Mountain West here. But first things first, I want to point out something. Sacramento State continues to just blow my mind every time I end up seeing them in the headlines. You're talking about a school that got the funding for a new 25,000 seat football stadium, which I'll show here, which I'm looking at now, which is absolutely insane in these Hornet Stadium renderings that got released. It's just wild. You have that, and then on top of that, around $40 million in NIL funds have been raised in less than, or around a 24-hour span, which is wild from a school their size. And Haynes reported today that Sacramento Kings have offered to host Sacramento State University's men's and women's basketball conference home games at the Golden Center, pending arena availability, which this would be huge for boosting their chance being in maybe the Pac-12 or Mountain West Conference. They're just trying to get up. Having that for basketball would be massive, incredible facilities, but basically everything Sacramento State continues to do blows my mind, and I wanted to point that out. They are trying their hardest, and that's a group of people who has really come together as a community and a school and has their stuff figured out. I think this is going to help them even if they don't get necessarily where they want to be. But doing this shows that you have the ability to grow, and I think that's awesome seeing a school like Sacramento State do that. But now let's get to the Pac-12. Some sources have said that on Pac-12 expansion, Gonzaga changed the chessboard, opened up some opportunities. Some of the schools previously linked to the conference are not fully off the table. And then Dick Weiss also came out today. Memphis and the Pac-12 remain in ongoing discussions. Discussions have started to gain steam over the last few days, with the Pac-12 proposing creative solutions to ease Memphis's financial concerns. I've been trying to say, it doesn't seem like Memphis has been off the table when their AD came out in that little interview he did where he was basically like nudging, make me a better offer. The Memphis fans want to be in the Pac-12. The boosters want to be in the Pac-12. With Gonzaga now joining, they definitely want to be in there. I saw this today on Twitter. If you look at college basketball, because this is about football mainly for me, but Memphis is big in basketball as well. But this person pointed out, from a college basketball perspective, the Pac-12 is now home to 6 teams that were ranked in the top 45 in the net rankings last March. I say that's pretty deadgum good. So Memphis is good at football and basketball. A lot of nudge towards basketball. So this is huge for them. And they also want hard numbers. So Dellinger even came out and said the Pac-12 needs one more full member, as we know, to reach the FBS qualification for football. The expectation is that the league will explore media rights packages with its current 8 members before adding more schools at a later date. No serious negotiations currently happening per those with knowledge. But basically the AAC schools, I don't think any of them really said no for sure, mainly to just that first offer, but they want more concrete. They want to know for sure. They're like, give us a clearer picture of what this is going to look like so we don't just leave for an extra a little bit. Like, we need to know for sure what these numbers are going to be more like, because if the Pac-12 really just wanted somebody, they could have added somebody like Texas State by now, which I'll get to in a second. But now you have Gonzaga, which sweetens the cake, especially for Memphis. And then if you get Memphis, then you could see other possibilities begin to happen. But I don't count Memphis out in this situation. I mean, I could be completely wrong. I'm not saying I know everything. This is just from the information I gather, and I decide to do my own deep dives into them because I'm just insane like that. I have to try to know everything going on in college sports. But I just feel like Memphis is probably going to end up in the Pac-12. And then you have the other AAC schools, which could still possibly be there, with Tulane, for sure. I would say more so than someone like UTSA or USF. But that's just my hunch on this situation. I'm just saying, like these guys have said, and I've been saying even before these reports came out when people were telling me, no, Memphis is not going to happen. It's over. That shut down the AAC schools are together. No, they're not. It's looking like they're still talking, and money talks, as we know. But now let's go ahead and get to the Mountain West, because last night, Texas State, pretty late last night, I just quoted it on my last video, the AD came out, and said, in quote, "The recent interest shown in Texas State and its presence across the college athletics landscape speaks volumes about the university and the work our staff and student athletes have done to build the Bobcat brand nationally. After preliminary discussions with an interested conference, we have decided not to make change at this time. I'm looking forward to watching all of our sports continue to compete for Sun Belt Conference and national champions," end quote, AD for Texas State. But get this, let's go back and look at his words. After preliminary discussions with an interested conference. They basically just said no to the Mountain West, is kind of what this put. Because if you look at Texas State, they're in an interesting situation right now. it's looking like they are going to go somewhere. It's just the feel of the situation. I said at the end of my last video, I said, look out for Texas State and all of this, and then we got that last night, and I was like, oh, well. As we know, the Pac-12 has expressed interest in Texas State, but there has not been an offer there. There's been mutual interest, but there was no offer. But if you're looking at this, the Pac-12 is obviously looking back to those AAC schools now. But Texas State, you're kind of in a win-win situation. Why go to the Mountain West where you're going to get less money when, let's say, Memphis leaves the AAC and goes to the Pac-12? Well, now the AAC pretty much has an opening, and why would you not want to go there with all the Texas schools, which I'll get to in a minute? And if Memphis doesn't go to the Pac-12, then the Pac-12 will probably come calling to you, and you're in a better conference if you're in the Pac-12 with the brand recognition. There's more money, there's better competition, there's more opportunities. And then for the AAC, if they end up going to the AAC, if someone leaves, you have better TV market, you're getting more money. You play a lot of Texas schools like UTSA, Rice, North Texas are in there. You don't have to play schools like ULM, no hate, or even Troy from Alabama. It's just, there's not much interest there. You're just in the conference that you're playing these schools in the Western Division in the Sun Belt, which is also the last conference to have divisions, by the way, which is crazy for FBS. RIP divisions, still keeping it strong in the Sun Belt. But you talk about that, it's a brand that is growing in Texas State. You're starting to get better crowds. And if you go to the AAC, how much better it would be for your crowds. You're playing more local schools. You're playing more Texas schools. You're starting to sell out games. Now you're getting even more interest because you're playing more local schools or in-state schools. And on top of that, you're playing out-of-state brands. You have the service academies in there. You have some Florida schools drawing a lot more interest rather than playing some of those smaller Sun Belt schools, like I said, ULM or even Southern Miss. No hate, just listing off names that don't really make sense of the teams playing, which, by the way, no one really makes sense playing teams anymore. But this is talking specifically just for Texas State. Either way, you're in a win-win situation. It's either Pac-12 or AAC, and it really all depends on this swing of the AAC teams. That's just how I feel about this. So now if we're talking about the Mountain West, if you need that member, because as we know, they still need a full member, an eighth member, and so does the Pac-12. Well, remember that little school that I've kept talking about, Tarleton State. You're like, Tarleton State, everyone's now talking about them, but let's listen to this. Little old Tarleton State, Ross Dellinger, Vanini, and Kahn have even highlighted Tarleton as being in deep, or in quote, deep and serious discussions, end quote, with the Mountain West Conference. I'm telling you, man, this little school that could, going from D2 to FCS in 2020, now in 2024, being in the FCS, has done really well. They're under the Texas A&M umbrella as well, and once you start to look into it, money ain't no problem. I'm telling you that with Tarleton, sorry. Just listen to this. They are basically building new complexes for almost all sports, arenas, boxes for like the baseball and softball fields, on top of just moving like 3.5 years ago from D2 to FCS. While that being said, money, check. Facilities, check. Here's the buy-in. If you're worried about, it's a small school, buy-in, check. The student body is increasing at the school, and on top of that, last year at football games, their average attendance was 18,697. Okay? Obviously, for schools like me, or I'm an Auburn fan, that's not even comparable, but just listen. That's 5th best in the FCS. That is more than North Texas and Sam Houston, who are both in the FBS, and they couldn't even have a chance at the postseason last year, and they were getting those numbers because they were still doing the transition, the stupid thing where you move up and you can't compete. But listen to this. At one of their games last year, by the way, they broke their attendance record, and their VP, the VP of Intercollegiate Athletics, said that crowd on Saturday was unbelievable. A record 22,251 fans attended the Texan football game on Family Weekend. What an incredible start to the season all around, from the 3-1 start on the field to what we've seen of it. The fan support been the best I've seen in my 35 years here. Our 2 home football games have had our best crowds ever. The 2 best crowds ever were both last season. They are starting to win games, too. They're 4-1 right now. Their only losses to Baylor. They're ranked 14th in the FCS. They are 29-17 since joining the FCS. They have a winning record. This is a school that seems like it might be ready to blossom. Maybe it ends up in the CUSA at the end of the day, but any way of going up is right. But this is a school that I think the Mountain West really should entertain, like, not trying to say being desperate, but I think this is a school, they're not necessarily a powerhouse traditionally in football, but they got 11 conference titles. They're starting to win. Everything is starting to go up. There was even an article I read earlier. Shoot, I should have screenshotted it or something. Someone said it's the golden age for Tarleton right now. You kind of are. Everything's set up right now for you to peak at they're peaking at the right time, and all this realignment, it's kind of just a perfect timing for them. I think this is truly a program that we could see in the future, long down the line, not saying like next year or the next year or 5 years from now, but we could see him as a premier team in the G5 ranks. This is a school that can grow, and I really think the Mountain West should entertain them. But pretty much that's all the stuff that I have for you tonight. There will probably be more news tomorrow. It's kind of that getting the hard numbers, for the Pac-12 is kind of the main thing in this. Obviously, there's no true rush right now. As Dellinger said, no serious negotiations currently happening per those with knowledge on the TV deal and all that. But pretty much Memphis and the AAC schools are like, give us concrete numbers. And once that starts happening, then we're going to start seeing some movement. Because even if they don't get those AAC schools, and maybe they get Texas State, but they don't, there's gonna be people there that will join. There will be people joining, regardless of if that school don't go, and if that school don't go, someone's gonna join because it's up. It is up for them. There's always someone to go up. So there's gonna be more realignment chaos. This is the place for you to be if you enjoy it. I enjoy talking about it. I just love college sports. So thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for watching. Have a great night or morning if you're watching this in the early AM. Hopefully I'll have another one of these videos today. I'm itching for more news.